Brett Veach addressed the media today, and it looks like Shane Buechele could be out in Kansas City. We're all chiefed up, and we're back with another podcast for that ass. Mike, let's talk about it.
Before we jump into Shane Buechele and the Chief, Steve, I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Thanks for watching All Chiefed Up. If you haven't already, hit that sub button. We're trying to get to 20K. We'd appreciate you. Let's jump right in, Steve. Shane Buechele, he might not be in Kansas City. Brett Veach gave a very cryptic statement today. Let's watch.
A lot of focus this year on second and third quarterbacks and whether you were to keep one on the 53 for the third quarterback. Chose not to do that. I know it sounds like Chris is coming back for sure. I haven't heard about Shane yet. How did that evaluation come down as far as the decision to only go with 2 on the 53?
Yeah, that was a tough one. And we've gone in different directions in different years. And, sometimes when you just try to keep some young guys too, it's difficult. And you do try to project some guys that you can get in the practice squad. And, keeping 6 linebackers was something that is a little bit of an oddity too in some regards. But when you have these young guys that, are likely to be gone and you want to see that through, I think sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Obviously Shane is a good football player, and, we love having him around. Certainly going to miss him. And it was just one of those things where at the end of the day, we always say this to all the guys, at the end of the day, like, make our jobs easy and put it on tape. And that's where Blaine came out and won the job. And, so it doesn't make it any easier.
Steve, he said Blaine Gabbert outright won the job, and that he said, we're going to miss Shane Buechele in Kansas City. That sounds to me like he's gone. They're not bringing him back.
It sounds exactly like that, Mike, and I think he's correct. I think Blaine Gabbert did win that job outright. He looked excellent in the preseason. Shane also looked pretty good, but you see that he was still a little bit of a loose cannon, still a little bit iffy sometimes. He's not that guy that you wanted to put in there when things were in a pinch. So I think that Blaine Gabbert won that job. I think Shane Buechele's gone. Do you think another team's going to pick him up, or what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to land with that one. We did sign Oladokin back to the practice squad. He's there. We had talked about it earlier. We said, where did Shane Buechele fall? Was it closer to Gabbert at 2 or Oladokin at 4? Looks like maybe, and we talked about this on the live last night, Steve, looks like maybe they were showcasing Shane Buechele to try to get some trade bait going. And that's why they had him against the Cardinals and putting him out there before Gabbert. Buechele goes 10 for 10, 105 and a touchdown. And they said, get out of here, buddy. We got to get a trade offer. Nothing, though. Nothing. Looks like he cleared waivers. Maybe the Patriots, you think?
That's the only team I could really think of off the top of my head, because they let Zappi and Cunningham both go to the practice squad. So I thought maybe they might be looking at him. But no, Mike, you had actually asked me that. Is he closer to Blaine Gabbert or Oladokin or Oladukin or Oladokin, Hoboken, Scrotum, Goat, Scrotum? I don't freaking know. I can't say the guy's name for nothing. It drives me insane. But either way, I thought he was closer to Blaine Gabbert than Oladokin. I did. But I've seen a lot of people with the sentiment that Oladokin was better as an option than Shane Buechele, because they liked his legs. They liked a lot of different things. But I don't know, man. I personally thought he was closer to Buechele, or Buechele was closer to Gabbert than Oladokin. But what it comes down to, man, is Blaine Gabbert just outright won the QB2 job, and I don't think QB3 is really that big of a deal. Let's be honest.
Right. Maybe we take a look at Bailey Zappi. Just throwing it out there. No, I don't know.
No,
Steve,
we tend to we hate Western Kentucky guys here, obviously, because Khalif comes in, wins a not starting job, but a 53-man roster job, and they're like, you know what? Nay, you go play for the Browns, son.
Nay, Khalif, go to the Browns. Steve, speaking of, we made the trade yesterday for Neil Farrell, put him on the defensive line because of the whole Chris Jones thing.
Right.
But they asked Brett Veach about Neil Farrell and what come of that. We also claimed Darius Rush, cornerback, after dropping Khalif Hallisey. We pick up Darius Rush. Darius Rush is now going to be on the 53-man roster. We got him from the Colts. They asked Brett Veach about the two guys. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
The two new guys, Farrell and Rush, what did you like about them? And particularly with Farrell, do you see him as being more than a first and second down player?
Well, we hope so. I mean, that's always, the goal and the plan for anytime you add someone on the defensive line, they can be a complete player. But I mean, right off the bat, just a bigger body. I mean, that was one of the things that, we put an emphasis on. I mean, he's 6'4" and change, and, he's just a bigger, longer body. And as you guys know, Steve, he likes that prototype. We certainly do as well. Like him coming out of college. That thing kind of picked up late yesterday and worked through it pretty quick actually, because that was, every time you make cuts in your mind, you have some roster management and some games you want to play, and then you're kind of trying to project practice squads and who'll get claimed and who won't. And kind of going into this thing, we were looking for a bigger, longer run playing defensive end. So we had one of those on the tackle, and we were looking for an athletic corner that has size, length, and speed. And so just in the last 2 days here, we're able to get two of those guys, a longer DT and, an athletic corner that fits the measurables we're looking for. And certainly like both those players coming out and had, the tape just seemed like we watched it yesterday on Rush. And then the DT, he just came out last year, was a 4th-round pick last year. So again, 2 young guys that we get to add to our roster along with the draft picks. I think all of them, earned their way on the roster this year, as well as one undrafted free agent.
Steve, these are Brett Veach moves, man. These are Brett Veach moves. You liked Farrell coming out. You thought the Chiefs was going to draft Neil Farrell. You thought he looked good at LSU. He can play. He can play. We just picked up Keith Taylor today, by the way. The Panthers dropped Keith Taylor. Keith Taylor played at the University of Washington with our boy Trent McDuffie, the warden. So they have now signed 2. Keith Taylor to the practice squad. You now have Darius Rush on the 53-man. You've got Farrell now on the 53-man. And the 2 corners, big guys, 6'2", 200 pounds, somewhere around that range. But that's what Khalif Hallisey was too. So I thought it was kind of weird. He had such a good preseason, and then boom, out the door. And then Brett talks about size, speed of Darius Rush and Keith Taylor. It's just kind of odd. But I do like the Rush signing, Steve, a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very Brett Veach signings here, right? It's guys that a 4th-rounder and a 5th-rounder that just they let them go. They got a lot of upside. Like you said, I liked Neil Farrell Jr. in the draft last season.
Yes.
I thought that he was a pretty good defensive tackle. He looked like a good run stopper, good run stuffer, and sometimes he could get after the quarterback, man. Very strong guy. Even if he was locked up in a block, you'd see him reach out with one hand sometimes and just rip down a run.
Right.
It was insane. Like, I really liked what he offered. And like Brett kind of touched on, he's a taller, longer, bigger guy. That I'm with him. I think that's what Spags likes, and that's why I kind of thought they had some interest in Neil Farrell Jr. in the draft back then. So I think it's a good addition. I don't think either guy, him or Rush, are going to come in here and have an immediate impact. I wouldn't think you'd just see them right on the field and making a big splash or anything. But I think they're both guys that have a pretty good upside, and they could eventually end up being a lot more than people think they could be, because they were expected to be a lot more for the teams they were playing for. And it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Was it them? Was it the system? Or is it just them getting acclimated to the NFL? We'll see.
Right. Well, Darius Rush coming out of South Carolina, that's an SEC guy. He played SEC competition. He done okay. He flashed. He had times where he looked good. He had times where he looked bad. He's a little stiff in the hips. He gets beat on the long ball a lot, but he can make plays. He can make the splash play. We talked about this earlier. This is a look at his RAS, a 9.81 RAS score. That is really, really high. Huge hand numbers, 9.5. He grades at the green on height, weight. His vert and his broad jump, a little sus on that, but it doesn't really hurt him because those usually determine explosiveness. And his 40-yard dash, 10-yard split, and 20-yard split, top of the chart numbers there. So it looks like Brett Veach went out. He got a late round guy again, size, speed combination, high RAS score. This just reminds you of Jalen Watson all over again. Does it not? It's like Josh Williams, Jalen Watson.
Hey, I'm okay with that, man. Jalen Watson worked out pretty good, so I'm not opposed to it. And you talked about him being a SEC guy. Neil Farrell Jr. was from LSU, another SEC guy. Brett Veach likes his draft pick, like these young guys that were drafted maybe a little further down than they were expected, and then they just don't work out. Like, think about like DeAndre Baker and players like that.
Right.
Like
Georgia.
This is the type of player that Brett Veach likes to go find to see if they can go ahead and hit that mark that people thought they could, man. I think Brett likes taking shots on these guys because, first of all, it's cheap. Second of all, they're young.
Right.
The potential's there, and it's like you're not losing anything if it doesn't work out, right? Like, you lost a 6th-round pick for Farrell.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, that's it.
Hey, the Darius Rush contract, it's beautiful. You ought to see it. I don't know it off the top of my head. Don't have the graphic for you, but just go dig into it. Somebody tweeted it. I want to say Matt Derrick, somebody like that on Twitter, X, whatever it is. Go find that. The Chiefs are getting a steal on Darius Rush and the rest of his rookie contract. But the whole Neil Farrell thing, Steve, we're doing it because of Chris Jones. Everybody's like, why is Chris Jones not here? Is he going to get back in time? I have a feeling he's got to get back by Sunday when they start practicing for this week, or he's not going to play in week 1 Thursday night. He's just not going to do it. But he actually talked about Chris Jones a little bit today. Brett Veach finally broke his silence on Chris Jones, and it wasn't all doom and gloom. There was even a little bit of a little smile and a smirk and a little bit of positivity here, Steve. Do you want to see it?
There was a gleam of hope in his eye.
There was a little gleam of hope in his
eye.
Let's check it out.
Just wondering what your communication has been, if any, with Chris recently and his people, and you expecting him to be here in time to play against the Lions?
Yeah, I mean, listen, certainly hopeful for that. We have been in communication, and actually just the last 2 days, we've been in more communication. So we're going to continue to press on and work hard, and a lot of respect on both sides of this thing. And it's been obviously well stated how we feel about Chris, and he feels the same way. So again, we're just going to keep working on this thing, and we're looking forward to next Thursday, and hopefully he's in the lineup and he's ready to go.
And to follow up on Chris, when you say communication, just want to clarify, do you mean progression towards a deal or progression towards just getting him to back in Kansas City without a deal? And do you foresee him potentially returning absent a deal?
We've been in communications, and I think, I like to keep all of those communications, between us and them, just out of respect for the whole process. And, in the hopes that we can continue to work to get something done.
They've been in communications, just communications.
It's
just, they're communicating.
Hey, look,
Did you see the smirk?
I'm no body language expert,
right,
but I kind of feel like they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
And I think, like Chris Jones has been throwing out the cryptic stuff on X and everything else, and even Instagram. He did it again today with this right here on his Instagram story. It's just him chilling on the sideline in a Chiefs uniform in Las Vegas, where the Super Bowl is going to be played this year.
Right.
So, that along with the way Brett Veach was acting, I do feel good about it. I just think that, man, this thing has got to get done eventually. I think that both sides, they want the same thing.
Yeah.
The Chiefs want Chris Jones as a lifer. Chris Jones wants to be a lifelong Chief. He don't want to play for anybody else. It's a good thing going on here. They're in the midst of a dynasty. Chris Jones has been a huge part of that. We always say he's one of the 4 pillars, man. We always say Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and Chris Jones. I think the feeling's mutual. That they want each other. They just got to make it happen, baby. They just got to get things in a row. Get their little ducks in a row.
Just lay down.
Brett Veach, the way he's acting, man, I feel good about it. And if he does show up Sunday and he ends up playing in week 1, this is a thing of the past. I think everybody forgets about it and goes on. But if it extends past that, Mike, and he doesn't show up, he doesn't play week 1, he starts missing games. Is that where the tide starts turning and where Chiefs Kingdom gets their pitchforks out and they're like, you know what? Screw you, Chris Jones. You suck. We're trading you. Is that what's going to happen?
That's already started. It's already started.
I know, but I mean,
it's
is it already coming?
It could get worse. Do you think he was trolling a little bit today, by the way, with that picture with the Super Bowl? Because this is why I say that. On X, there was a big thing going around today where they should trade Chris Jones for Max Crosby, and then he tweets himself sitting on the sideline at the Raiders. Maybe he's trolling again.
I think it's a little bit of both, right?
Chris Jones is a master troll.
I did see that, by the way, where someone had talked about trading Chris Jones for Max Crosby. Look, I would love to have Max Crosby on this team as much as the next guy, but no, nay. We need Chris Jones in the middle there, baby, and that's all there is to it. And I think they're going to get something worked out, man. I fully believe that Chris Jones will play this season. I don't think he's going to miss time. I don't think it benefits him whatsoever. I think it puts him in a bad spot. Like we were talking about, the tide's already started turning in Chiefs Kingdom. They've got their pitchforks out. They're already yelling at Chris Jones. It is what it is. I think they've got to make something happen.
Well, look, we knew he was we knew him and the Katz brothers were both here on Saturday during the preseason game.
Yeah.
He said they just spoke recently after they had just spoke. So when he said in the past few days, that would have been Saturday, Sunday, and then this was Wednesday, so Monday, Tuesday. They've spoke again since all that on Saturday. So I think there's cautious optimism. I still do think he can miss week 1. I really do, just because I don't know if he can get in before Sunday.
I'm not
that
saying
deal would have
that
to be
he
announced
won't.
today or tomorrow.
I'm not saying that he won't, but I don't think it's beneficial to him to miss any time in the regular season.
Probably not. But
I don't think it helps him in negotiations, Mike, to miss time. I don't see how that changes anything. It's not. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be like, oh, well, we had to play week 1 without Chris Jones. Go ahead and add some more money onto the contract. It's just not happening.
Right. I don't say that either. But speaking of missing more time, Brett Veach was asked today about our wide receivers, about Kadarius Toney, if he's going to be ready for week 1, if Sneed is going to be ready for week 1. We went very non-corner heavy, by the way, with Sneed with his injury. And then Kadarius Toney, they said, is it going to be week 1? Do they have to put him on IR? There was a lot of IR talk. And Brett Veach said, nay, there is no IR talk here. Let's listen to that one.
Kadarius Toney and L'Jarius Sneed, are they candidates to go on IR now, or are they going to be on the 53? And if so, do you expect them to play against Detroit?
They'll be on the 53. And again, I don't want to speak for the coaches or for Rick, but they have a good chance to be where they need to be week 1, and we'll see. And again, I'll let Rick make those decisions. Him in conjunction with the players, they have a great relationship with all of our players, but especially those two. And credit to Kadarius and to LJ and Turk Wharton. I mean, really all the guys, but you think about Kadarius and LJ and Turk Wharton right off the bat. Just give them so much credit and the work Rick and Julie and Glove and Evan, that Tiff, the whole staff down there. Those guys have worked their tails off around the clock to put themselves in a position to play Thursday, and I think that they certainly have a chance, and we'll see how it goes.
Kadarius Toney, Steve. Kadarius Toney. He's been fighting back. He's an injury. He's just, when you look up injury in the dictionary, it's got a picture of that boy.
He's a guru of injury.
He is. He's the master of injury. But I will say this. Apparently, they think he's working. He's getting back. He's healthy. I presumably think he may play a little bit, but it's going to be a snap count. He's going to be on a pitch count. He's not going to play as much as we think he is. He's got to get back in rhythm with the offense, back in rhythm with Mahomes a little bit. But Sneed, I presumably think Sneed, if he's healthy and can go, which it sounds like he is, he can come in and play his normal snaps, probably a little bit lower than you would like to see later on once he gets his legs back under him. But Sneed's more of a veteran, and he's been here a little longer in the system than Kadarius Toney's been with the offense and different things. I think defense, you don't have to worry so much about being in a rhythm. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Well, either way, you have to look at this as a positive, Mike. The fact that they're not looking to put any of these guys on the IR, that means the team's relatively healthy.
That's good.
And that's awesome. It's about time, because that's all we've been talking about is injury here, injury there, injury here, injury there. You have people like Turk Wharton, who hasn't got to play a full season in God knows how long. Maybe we can get him out here and see what he can do in a full season with the Chiefs. I don't know, man. I'm pretty excited about this year, and I'm really excited about hearing Brett Veach say they're going to play on Thursday. And I don't mean that by I think that Kadarius Toney or L'Jarius Sneed is going to play a bunch on Thursday. I just mean that there's a freaking football game on Thursday. The season's kicking off, baby. It's time. It's time for some Chiefs football.
Right. Hey, man, I say Olakunle Futakazi, Jerome Carvin, and Nico Remigio, by the way. All three of those guys cleared waivers, and they're on the IR with the Chiefs right now. So Nico did clear the waivers. He is a Chief. We get a chance to take him forward a little bit. That was a blessing in disguise right there, because I don't know if Nico would have passed waivers and cleared it if he had been relatively healthy there for the last little bit. So that's good. I think, Kadarius Toney is going to come back. He's going to be fine at some point. Let's just hope he can stay healthy for the remainder of the season. I know that's tough. Presumably he's going to miss a bunch of games, but it is what it is. But I think our defense is going to be fine. If Chris Jones can get back, our defense is fine.
Absolutely. I think the defense will be okay, even if Chris Jones misses some time. But I think ultimately the defense hinges on Chris Jones. Like, you want to be a top 5, top 10 defense, or do you want to be a bottom half defense? We don't want a bottom half defense. In Kansas City, we're tired of bottom half defenses. We don't want that. We don't want to revert to that. We just want to see something get done with Chris Jones. But Mike, just real quick, you're mentioning the guys that went to the IR. Can you please say that first name one more time for me? Because that is ridiculous.
It is Olakunle Futakazi, inside linebacker for Rutgers. He played with our boy IP Pacheco.
You put him over there with High Dukin, and I really can't pronounce any of their names.
I know.
I'm going to call them Thing 1 and Thing 2.
Hey, I tell you though, the practice squad is set, Steve. They've got the whole list up. We'll run through that for just a second. Reese Taylor, Deion Bush, Danny Shelton, Austin Ryder, Jason Godric. He is the exemption. He is the reason we get to put 17 on there. Matt Bushman, Deneric Prince, Powell, P. Ryan, Christensen, Boyd Doe, Montrell Washington. That's a guy that played with Denver last year a little bit. Oladokin, Garrett Prince, a local KC guy who played a little bit with the Jaguars. Keith Taylor, who we mentioned earlier, he played at UW with our boy, the Warden. Chris Williams, Matt Dickerson has been knocked off of this squad. He has been cleared to he's the final one. And then you got Darian Kennard, Truman Jones. This is the squad minus Matt Dickerson. Steve, Matt Dickerson was the last to be hanging on with the 53. We were like, how'd that happen? Then he goes to the practice squad, and then he's gone in one day.
Right.
It's been a ride for Matt Dickerson, my man.
There's one guy missing from that practice squad that I really wish was on it, but I think it's over. Jerry and Ely, I wish he was still around. Don't see his name there, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Obviously, we would have loved to seen Khalif Hallisey fall through waivers and get back on the practice squad. Didn't happen. He was too damn good for us to even be like. Do you realize like? Maybe I'm on a different planet than these guys, but they could have just not put Matt Dickerson on the roster and kept Khalif Hallisey, and we'd still have him in the same practice squad.
And then you could have claimed your boy there anyway, Darius Rush. You could have just claimed him.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand that move. I'm still going to scratch my head about that one, but I am happy to see Darren Kennard did get through waivers. I didn't think he was going to, and I do think in the future he'll be a beneficial guy to have in our offensive line room.
Colts fans, Indianapolis Colts, were all over Darren Kennard. They wanted him so bad. I thought that's where he would go, but they ultimately didn't make the claim. He got through. That's a positive for us. And again, Nico Remigio, he's on the IR. That's a positive for us too. So we got through relatively unscathed. I think the roster still got a little bit of work to do. It's not perfect. Veach is still going to have some moves to make here in the next few days, but it's looking better and better.
It's coming together. It's coming together. And am I wrong in saying that practice squad looks pretty daggone good, man?
No, it's pretty solid.
There's a lot of players on our practice squad that other people that talk about the Chiefs fans, everyone, there's a lot of players on that practice squad that people thought were going to make the 53-man roster. Right. So they thought they were good enough to be on the squad, and we have a big list of those guys on the practice squad. So I'm pretty pumped that we have a good practice squad like that, just in case we need them.
Right, but no Shane Buechele, man. The time has come and gone. He's friends with Mahomes. He's got the SMU connection with Rashee Rice, but ultimately it looks like he's not going to be a Chief anymore, Steve. It kind of sucks. He may be back later on in the maybe in the not so distant future, I think is what I'm trying to say. Maybe he'll get back in here somehow and back him up after the Gabbert experience is over, maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. I think Gabbert's going to be around for a minute. I could be wrong. But I feel like he's a pretty perfect QB2 for Andy Reid. We'll see how long it goes.
Right. You guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, hitting that bell. We'll catch y'all next time. Go Chiefs. Aside